The ballroom glittered under the soft golden lights, a symphony of laughter, champagne bubbles, and clinking glasses filling the air. It was the 10-year university reunion, an evening draped in nostalgia and success stories. Men in tailored suits discussed stocks and startups, women in shimmering gowns exchanged air kisses, and a live band played the same song that once echoed through campus corridors. At the far end, the doors opened quietly, and Sophia Malik stepped in. She wore a simple pastel dress, elegant but modest, clutching her purse a little too tightly. Her heart thudded as familiar faces turned, their smiles polite but laced with curiosity. They remembered her, not as Sophia the student, but as Sophia, Ryan Carter's ex-wife. Ryan arrived minutes later, laughter preceding him like an announcement. His charisma filled the room, his tailored suit exuding wealth and confidence. Surrounded by admirers, he caught sight of her and smirked. "Sophia Malik," he said loudly enough for others to hear. "Still chasing small jobs. Guess not everyone's built for success." The crowd chuckled, some awkwardly, some cruelly. Sophia's cheeks flushed, but her voice remained silent. She turned away, walking out of the grand hall, her reflection caught in the mirrored walls, not broken, just burning quietly with resolve. Once they had been inseparable, the couple everyone believed would conquer the world together. Sophia still remembered the first time she met Ryan Carter at university. Confident, ambitious, and full of dreams that mirrored her own. He had a spark that drew her in, a belief that nothing was impossible if you wanted it enough. They would spend nights planning their future, sketching business ideas on napkins, talking about innovation, love, and legacy. When they married after graduation, it felt like a natural continuation of their shared dream. Together, they launched a small tech startup out of their cramped apartment. Sophia handled operations, coding, and client communication, while Ryan charmed investors and managed marketing. They worked day and night, building something real, something that felt like theirs. But success has a cruel way of revealing people's true nature. When the first big investor showed interest, Ryan began to change. He craved attention, money, and control. He started belittling her ideas, cutting her out of meetings, and eventually rewrote the ownership documents behind her back. When she confronted him, he told her coldly, "You don't have the vision." The betrayal was swift and public. Divorced, broke, and humiliated, Sophia signed the papers with trembling hands, whispering to herself, "One day, I'll build something you'll never touch." The days that followed were heavy with silence and small failures. Sophia moved into a tiny apartment on the outskirts of the city, the kind where the walls were thin and the nights felt longer. Her savings barely lasted a few months, and she found herself juggling part-time jobs. A receptionist here, a freelance project there, anything to keep the lights on. Yet, beneath the exhaustion, something restless began to stir inside her. She refused to let her story end as the woman Ryan discarded. Late nights became her sanctuary. She spent hours watching free business lectures online, studying coding tutorials, and reading every article about digital entrepreneurship she could find. When sleep wouldn't come, she wrote in a worn-out notebook, ideas, plans, and quotes that kept her spirit alive. One evening, she met a retired CEO at a community business seminar who saw something fierce in her determination. He offered mentorship, not pity. Under his guidance, she learned structure, leadership, and confidence. Slowly, a new idea took shape. A tech platform designed to help small businesses go digital without massive costs. She called it Novosphere. The name meant New World. And for Sophia, that's exactly what it was. The first spark of her comeback. The journey of building Novosphere began at her kitchen table, a second-hand laptop glowing beside an empty coffee mug. Sophia's resources were limited, but her vision was limitless. She reached out to freelancers from around the world, piecing together a small but dedicated team who believed in her mission, to give small business owners the digital tools they could never afford before. Every morning started before sunrise and ended long past midnight. Rejections came daily, investors dismissing her as too small, too new, or too inexperienced. Some even implied that a divorced woman running a tech company was a risky bet. But Sophia refused to back down. Her first breakthrough came when a small bakery used Novosphere's prototype to launch their online store. Within weeks, their story went viral. Local bakery triples sales using new app by unknown developer. Suddenly, emails flooded in from small business owners wanting to join. Sophia reinvested every dollar she earned, growing her team, refining her software, and improving her platform's reach. Within 3 years, Novosphere had become the fastest-growing digital platform for entrepreneurs. Business magazines started calling her the quiet force behind the small business revolution. The world had started to notice what Ryan once called a lack of vision. While Sophia's world was rising, Ryan's empire had begun to crumble. His company, Skynetics Technologies, once celebrated as a visionary force, was now cracking under the weight of his ego. He had built it on arrogance and quick deals instead of innovation and integrity. Employees began to leave, whispering about his temper and mismanagement. Major clients withdrew, citing delayed projects and false promises. The media that once praised him now printed headlines questioning his leadership. Ryan tried to hide the panic behind expensive suits and empty confidence. Board meetings turned hostile as investors demanded explanations for plummeting stocks. But Ryan had no answers. Only excuses. He blamed the market, his team, even the economy, but deep down he knew the truth. He had stopped evolving. His name had become a brand of failure. Ironically, the only company growing fast enough to save his sinking empire was Novosphere, though he didn't yet realize the poetic twist waiting for him. Fate had quietly started aligning the pieces for the reckoning he never saw coming. Desperation had turned Ryan into a man who would consider any option, even those that wounded his pride. One late evening, during a tense board meeting, his financial advisor slid a folder toward him. "There's a chance to save Skynetics," he said. "A merger with Novosphere. They've captured the market we've been losing." Ryan scoffed, his ego reflexively rejecting the idea. Novosphere. Some small startup run by nobodies, he said with a laugh that didn't quite hide his anxiety. But the numbers didn't lie. Novosphere's growth was skyrocketing, its client satisfaction unmatched. The board insisted the merger could restore their credibility and balance their losses. With mounting pressure and dwindling choices, Ryan reluctantly agreed to a meeting. Still, he boasted at a charity gala days later, glass of whiskey in hand. "Once this merger is done, I'll have that small company under my control." A perfect move, really. The people around him chuckled, unaware that destiny was preparing a different script. One where Ryan Carter would walk into a boardroom to meet the woman he had once mocked and left behind, now seated in the chair he had always believed was his. The conference room gleamed with glass walls, a panoramic view of the city stretching behind it. Ryan walked in confidently, adjusting his cufflinks, wearing his most expensive suit, the kind he reserved for closing deals he thought he'd already won. Around the long polished table sat his board members and a few executives from Novosphere, their faces calm and unreadable. He took a seat at the head, smirking, waiting for the mysterious CEO to arrive. Then the doors opened. The room fell silent. Sophia Malik stepped in. Gone was the timid woman from the reunion. This Sophia carried herself with quiet authority. Her tailored suit was simple yet commanding, her presence magnetic. Ryan's confident grin froze midair. "You're the CEO," he stammered. She met his gaze evenly. Surprised. "Let's discuss your merger proposal." As the meeting progressed, Sophia spoke with precision, outlining data, strategy, and projections that left the room in awe. Every point she made dismantled his assumptions piece by piece. Ryan tried to interrupt, but his voice faltered against her calm dominance. By the time the meeting ended, the decision was clear. Novosphere would acquire Skynetics, not merge with it. When they shook hands, Sophia leaned closer and whispered, "Looks like I finally built something you can't take from me." The next morning, headlines exploded across every major business platform. Ryan Carter's company acquired by ex-wife's tech empire. The story spread like wildfire, igniting social media and news channels alike. Photos from the boardroom circulated. Sophia Malik standing tall, shaking hands with the very man who had once humiliated her. The world couldn't get enough of the poetic justice. Business reporters hailed her as the new face of resilience, calling her rise a modern legend of grace and grit. Sophia handled the attention with poise. In interviews, she never once mentioned revenge or her past marriage. She spoke only about vision, innovation, and empowering those who had been underestimated. Her calm dignity only made her story more powerful. Meanwhile, Ryan faced the public fallout. Investors abandoned him, colleagues distanced themselves, and his name became a symbol of arrogance undone by pride. His company ID was deactivated the same day the acquisition was finalized. The empire he once boasted about now belonged entirely to the woman he'd mocked at a reunion, a woman who had turned her pain into power, and her silence into the loudest victory imaginable. Weeks later, Ryan requested a private meeting. His pride bruised but his curiosity insistent. The room was quiet, stripped of any witnesses, the tension almost tangible. He looked at her, searching for some trace of the woman he once controlled, perhaps expecting bitterness or rage. "Sophia, I want to apologize," he began, though his words sounded hollow, more a reflection of his own embarrassment than genuine remorse. Sophia listened quietly, her expression unreadable. When he paused, she finally spoke, calm and unwavering. "You taught me everything I needed to learn about business and life. Mostly what not to become," she said, her voice steady, carrying both strength and grace. Ryan's mouth opened, but no words came. She continued, "I don't need to take revenge. I've moved far beyond what we once were. You lost nothing I value." She turned, leaving him standing in silence, surrounded by the sleek offices of a company he could no longer claim. For the first time in years, Ryan felt powerless, not because Sophia had defeated him, but because she had risen above him, unburdened, unstoppable, and finally free. The following months marked a new chapter in Sophia's life, one defined not by past pain but by purpose and growth. Novosphere headquarters thrived under her leadership, buzzing with innovation, collaboration, and the energy of a team inspired by her vision. Every corner of the office reflected her journey, a blend of resilience, intelligence, and elegance. She launched a mentorship program aimed at empowering women entrepreneurs, sharing the lessons she had learned the hard way, ensuring that others would not have to struggle alone. A year later, the same grand ballroom that had once witnessed her humiliation hosted Novosphere's 10th anniversary celebration. Sophia stood at the center, confident and radiant, welcomed by colleagues, investors, and aspiring entrepreneurs. The applause was deafening, not for her as Ryan Carter's ex-wife, but for her as the woman who had built a world on her own terms. Around her neck, she wore a simple gold pendant, once a wedding gift, now a symbol of strength, not sorrow. As she gazed across the room, memories of the reunion faded into nothingness. Some endings, she realized, weren't about revenge. They were about rebirth, about stepping into a life that even dreams had once underestimated. And she had done just that.